This episode is called the Icarus Factor because Icarus fell after he flew too close to the sun, just like Riker flies too close to... No, wait. Riker is starting to fly high, but then he's like, oops, getting close to the sun, better drop the altitude a bit. And he does, and he's fine. Thanks, Icarus. This is a review of the Star Trek The Next Generation episode, The Icarus Factor. If you have not seen this episode and you don't want to know how far the martial arts have evolved by the 24th century, be warned, spoilers beyond this point. Star Trek has been many things over the years. A sci-fi morality play, a space western, a pulpy, campy action-adventure. Have you ever wondered what it would be like as a tepid, sexless primetime soap? I think it might go a little something like this. The Enterprise is making an unscheduled stop at Starbase Montgomery to check out some computer anomalies and also to deal with a possible personnel transfer. Picard calls Riker to the observation lounge for a private meeting and gives him the good news. He's been offered a promotion as captain of the starship Ares. But the Ares is about to embark on a potentially dangerous mission in a remote, unexplored region of space that might be home to an undiscovered intelligent life form. So Starfleet sent Riker a personal civilian advisor to brief him on the mission. Right before Riker heads to the transporter room to welcome this advisor aboard, Picard's like, "Have fun." Okay, weirdo. The advisor beams in, and it's, surprise, Riker's dad. His estranged dad. His dad he hasn't seen or even heard from, apparently, in 15 years. Kyle Riker, Riker's dad, says, "I asked Captain Picard not to tell you I was coming," and he agreed because he's a stinker who loves helping out with little jokes involving his officers who are about to be sent off on important missions. So, surprise! How are you? How have you been? Riker's like, "I'll let you settle in and then we can do the mission briefing," and walks off. Some of you might be thinking at this point, how are they going to fill an hour with just Riker and his relationship with his dad? Well, they're not. Time for some subplots. We've already got the bit with the Enterprise's computer acting weird and being checked over by the geek squad from Starbase Montgomery. Geordi's not happy about that, but that's awfully thin soup. We need something else. Luckily, here comes Wesley to pester Worf. Wesley jabbers at Worf about Riker's pending promotion and Riker's dad being on board and how Worf never knew his father, and Wesley was so young when his father died, so he never really knew him either, and everybody needs somebody, and finally Worf's like, "Enough!" and walks off. Wes runs to engineering like, "Something's really wrong with Worf. I was talking to him, and he got really mad and yelled at me." Geordi's like, "So why do you think something's wrong with him?" Later, Riker and O'Brien are hanging out in 10 Forward when Kyle walks in, and boy is he Mr. Popular. Everybody's shaking his hand and slapping him on the back. He's the goddamn mayor of the Enterprise. Then Dr. Pulaski walks up, and they immediately kiss and embrace. Riker's like, "They know each other." And O'Brien's like, "Yeah, in the biblical sense, son." Kyle and Pulaski get a table and start to catch up. It's apparently been a while since they've seen each other, and Riker walks over like, "You never told me you were banging my piece of shit sperm donor." Pulaski's like, "It's not exactly a secret. We got arrested for having sex during the Starfleet Academy commencement ceremony. On stage. Twice. I bet the class of 53 will never forget that." Riker reminds his dad about their mission briefing, then leaves. We linger with Kyle and Pulaski as they talk about what they've missed since they last met. Pulaski's been married a bunch of times and is still on good terms with her exes. It didn't work out between her and Kyle, but they're both clearly still interested. Only problem is Kyle, who is a good person underneath, is kind of a huge asshole on the outside and also a lousy father. We cut to elsewhere in 10 Forward, where Geordi and Data have let Wesley talk them into spying on Worf to see what the bug is up his ass. Data goes over to Worf, who is standing alone looking out the window, and tries to strike up a conversation, but Worf tells him to fuck off, and Data goes back to Geordi like, "I think he wants to be left alone," which only guarantees that they will not leave him alone. Worf goes to Riker's quarters and he's like, "I heard you're leaving to take command of a ship far, far away from here. Please take me with you." Riker hasn't made up his mind about accepting the promotion yet. He goes to meet with his dad for that briefing, and Kyle hands over a disc and says, "Everything you need to know is on there. This meeting could have been an email, but I wanted to see you. I've come to see you because of how dangerous your new ship's mission is. I'm here with my hand out, son." "Oh, so you've come to borrow money. Typical." Later, in sickbay, Pulaski tricks Kyle into an impromptu therapy session with Counselor Troi, who wants to help Kyle work on his relationship with his son. Kyle's like, "What am I supposed to do? I abruptly re-enter his life after being completely gone since he was a teenager, and he treats me like shit." Troi accuses Kyle of being competitive with his own son, but Kyle says, "Those days are over. I'm here to help him prepare for a dangerous mission, a mission I know he'll accept because I would accept it, and he's grown up just like me. My boy is just like me." Kyle interrupts a conversation between Picard and Riker doesn't dig that. He says, "You're not going to pressure me into making this decision. I don't need you. I've been on my own since I was 15. And Kyle's like, "Oh, don't cry to me about your lousy childhood. What did I have to do with that? I stuck around for 13 years. What, was I supposed to be there for you for the rest of my life? Piss off." Meanwhile, Wesley has continued to poke around in Worf's business, and he's figured out that Worf is grumpier than usual lately because they all forgot his birthday. Sort of. It's a Klingon thing, the 10th anniversary of his rite of ascension. So, to make up for it, they decide to throw Worf a Klingon birthday party on the holodeck. That sounds like fun. Riker goes to sickbay to apologize to Pulaski for butting in on her personal life by noticing that she knew his father. Pulaski's like, "It's okay. I would have married your father if he wasn't so devoted to his career. I met him 12 years ago when he was seriously injured when the Tholians attacked the starbase where he was stationed as a civilian strategist. Everyone else at the base that day died. Only your father was man enough to survive. I never saw someone fight so hard to live. He didn't give up like those other wimps. And he and I fell in love. You see, I know he's a prick, but I like pricks. If the person that prick is attached to is also a prick, well, I figure I get 2 pricks for the price of 1. That's your father, Will. 2 pricks for the price of 1. Okay, good talk. Riker visits Picard like, "Should I accept this promotion or not? I can't make up my mind. Tell me what to do." Picard says, "Okay, you're choosing between 2 options. Option 1, you stay here on the Enterprise. It's a fancy ship. It's the flagship. It has its own TV series. You're the first officer, which is a prestigious gig, but you're still second in command because, buddy, I'm the big dog around here and don't you forget it." Option 2, you take the promotion and become captain of the Ares. It's not as nice of a ship as the Enterprise. It's a bit of a shit wagon if you want to know the truth, but it will be your shit wagon, and you'll have the power to drive that shit wagon however you want. So it's up to you. Second seat on the flagship or driver's seat on the shit wagon. Riker's like, "I'm going to need to think a little more about this." Even though he hasn't made up his mind about leaving yet, Riker goes to Counselor Troi's office to say goodbye. It's a nice scene, even though the feelings are important stuff feels like it's being played for an audience of preschoolers. They hug, Troi cries. It's sweet, but Riker's kind of a jerk for saying goodbye before he'd even decided to leave, ain't he? I guess he's a lot like his father after all. Speaking of Kyle, he shows up outside Riker's quarters demanding to talk. Riker's like, "Hey, I've been nice so far, but now it's time for you to hit the bricks," or whatever the futuristic version of that phrase is. "Take a spacewalk, old man, or you'll what? You think you can whip me? You'll never whip me! Why, if only there was a space karate ring nearby, I'd teach you a lesson." There's a space karate ring on deck 12. Oh, there is. Great. Yeah. Fuck it, let's go. You're on. A bit later, Kyle walks into sickbay and Pulaski's like, "What's this I hear about you and Will having a space karate fight?" Kyle's like, "Oh, you've heard. And can I just ask, how? How does anyone other than Riker and his dad know they're having a space karate match? Are they promoting it? Have they each been going around bragging to people on the ship about how they're going to beat the other's ass? Did a gossipy crewman notice the space karate gym had been reserved by Commander Riker, and on the forum Riker had written "dad fight"? Anyway, Pulaski's like, "Hasn't humanity progressed past the point where we need to solve our problems with violence?" And Kyle's like, it's not violence, it's competitive physical combat that carries a serious risk of injury. Come on, lighten up. Before we get the hotly anticipated Riker versus Riker bout, it's time for Worf's Klingon birthday party. The holodeck has been programmed with a simulation of a Klingon temple with rows of holographic Klingons stationed on either side of a sunken pit. The way a Klingon birthday party works is the birthday boy crosses that pit, and as he goes, he stops every so often to get shocked in the ribs by pain sticks. So it's almost as agonizing as when you go out to eat on your birthday and one of your friends tells the host it's your birthday, and all the servers surround the table and sing that restaurant's proprietary birthday song at you, while the diners at all the other tables try their best to ignore it because everybody hates it. Why do restaurants do that? Who would ask a restaurant to do that? No one who's really your friend. I know that much. You don't need people like that in your life. Anyway, Worf shows up. Wesley, Geordi, and Data are there, as are Pulaski and Chief O'Brien, who have also been roped into this. They all stand on the far side of the pit while Worf starts across. Every time Worf takes a step, he gets hit from both sides with the pain sticks, and he screams something badass. So it's like step, zap, give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire. Step, zap, the only time I'm gonna be easy is when I'm killed by death. Step, zap, Jolene, don't take away my man. Worf gets to the end, falls down on his face, then looks up at his friends and says, best birthday ever. Happy birthday, Worf! And now it's fight time. We take you live to the Space Karate Gym where the combatants are standing at the ready. In this corner, the galaxy's most fearsome absentee father, the professor of parental neglect, Starfleet's #1 civilian advisor of pain, Kyle Riker! And in this corner, a tall drink of synthale with long legs and a longer torso, the bearded battler who steps over his opponents as easily as he steps over the backs of chairs. He may be #1, but he's come here today to knock the #2 out of his deadbeat dad, William T. Riker! They're all geared up for their space karate fight, which will apparently be some kind of American gladiators-like joust, only they'll also have solid visors over their eyes so they can't see. This, as Kyle announces, is the ultimate evolution of the martial arts. Okay. Kyle says, and I'd just like to add, son, I know this is still early in the run, but I'm confident by the end of it, this will still be at least in the top 3 of the goofiest visuals ever put on screen by this series. The fight begins. It mostly consists of them waving their jousting staffs around and occasionally taking big swings at each other. Riker scores a takedown and says, you should have been the one to die, not Mom. Kyle gets up. They fight on for a bit. Kyle gets the upper hand, and he says, look, Will, you were too young when she died to understand. She was your mother, but she was my wife. It hurt me too, but am I still complaining about it? No. God, get over your dead mom. They fight some more. Kyle takes down Riker, and Riker's like, hold up, that was an illegal move. You cheated. Is that how you beat me all those times we fought when I was young? By cheating? Kyle's like, well, you never noticed, so who's really at fault? Besides, I knew you could beat me by the time you were 12. If I didn't cheat and keep winning and keep you coming back for more, I wouldn't have been able to challenge you and you wouldn't have been able to grow. So you a boy named sued me? Exactly. I love you, son. I love you too, Dad. And they hug and their relationship is fixed. See, violence is the answer. Cut to the bridge a bit later, the computer is all fixed. It turns out all they had to do was whatever Data suggested in the first place. Take that, Geek Squad! And Riker walks off the turbo lift and says, hey, if it's okay, I'm gonna tell those admirals at Starfleet to shove that promotion up their asses and stay here, because I like being on TV. Cool? Picard's like, it's cool with me. I have no idea who I'd promote to replace you anyway. The robot? The Klingon with the pain fetish? The dateless wonder down there at engineering? Strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, know what I'm saying? No. Neither do I. Glad you're sticking around, though. The end! This is what I would call an uneven episode. There are some parts of it that work fairly well, some parts that don't really work on their intended terms but are fun nevertheless, and some parts that have me asking, what's this doing here? First, Yes, I think this episode plays like a primetime soap. But a primetime soap early in its run, when it tries to be an earnest story about relationships, before the producers realize they're boring the audience to death and decide, fuck it, let's just have all the characters turn on each other and be constantly fighting and fucking. It's like an episode of Dynasty from the first season, when Joan Collins has not yet shown up to transform it into the trashy masterpiece we all remember. Well, that all of us middle-aged and older folks remember. Riker's story with Kyle is classic family melodrama. The absent father, the resentful son, each not understanding the other, yet each desperate for the other's love and approval. Some of this succeeds at the level at which it's presented, including Pulaski as a minor stroke of genius, and I like how, through her, Riker realizes that there's a lot about his father he doesn't know. But a lot of the Riker's dad drama is so corny and cliched that it can only be enjoyed ironically. Luckily, I do enjoy it in just that way. There are scenes between Riker and Kyle that could be copied verbatim into the script of a broad spoof. You wouldn't have to change a thing.
It's funny. I can talk to a whole room full of admirals about anything in the galaxy. But I can't talk to you about how I feel.
If you didn't know any better, would you think that was a scene from Star Trek or a scene from a parody of Star Trek? What's even the difference at that point? That entire space karate sequence is a brilliant bit of goofiness. The costumes, the contrived absurdity of the sport itself, the random Japanese phrases, the fact that the whole thing turns on Kyle making an illegal move, which is apparently just hitting Riker in the leg. Not sure why that would be illegal, but then again, I don't pretend to understand the subtle rules governing the ultimate martial art. It's all perfectly ridiculous, and I love it. When we think of classic Star Trek fights, we mostly remember the original series. TNG doesn't have many memorable fights, but it has at least one, and here it is. Mitchell Ryan presents us with a plausible father for Commander Riker. Ryan tries to put across the moments of genuine feeling when they come along, playing everything with a straight face. Through his performance, Kyle Riker seems like the sort of man who would be well-liked by people who don't really know him. We get a sense of the pride, stubbornness, and ego that have alienated him from his son. But it's also easy to see why someone like Dr. Pulaski, who has a similarly gruff, no-nonsense way about her, would find him attractive. Does the resolution between father and son play? Not really. It feels too quick, too easy. They spend the entire episode resenting each other, then they have one space karate fight. Kyle says, "I love you," and they hug it out. It doesn't leave me feeling deeply moved. But like I said, it's a primetime soap. And primetime soaps aren't meant to touch our hearts and dazzle us with cinema in its most artful form. They're meant to provide us with momentarily diverting schlock. And in that effort, the episode succeeds. The Riker gets promoted element is only there to provide a pretense for Kyle to come aboard so he can fight with and eventually reconcile with his son, and it never plays as anything more than that. I don't know about you, but even if I ignore the fact that I know Riker doesn't leave because I've seen the show before, I don't buy Riker accepting his promotion for a second. The script includes a couple of small touches, like Picard's description of the character who would be Riker's first officer if he took the job on the Ares, that try admirably to convince us that this is for real. But Riker's obviously not going anywhere. That's why that scene between Riker and Troy both works and doesn't work for me. It's a nicely acted scene by Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis. The feeling between Riker and Troy rings true. They seem like people who really care about each other, who will really miss seeing each other after Riker goes. And I've said before how important that sort of thing is to me as a viewer. Convince me that the characters care about each other, and I'll care about the show. But that is undercut by how obvious it is that Riker's not going anywhere. At this point in the episode, Riker himself hasn't even made up his mind yet. He's still making up his mind, not intending to leave. And yet, he's visiting Troy to say goodbye. We know he's not leaving. He doesn't yet know whether he's leaving or not, so why are we having this scene? The Riker story is a little bit of good and a whole lot of so bad it's good, but it's not the entire episode. There's also the Worf subplot. which would be the "what's this doing here" portion. Many of TNG's Season 2 episodes feel hammered together from unrelated parts, and the Icarus Factor fits that description. You can draw some faint thematic parallels between the Riker story and the Worf story. Riker is dealing with drama related to his family, while Worf is eventually cheered up thanks to the efforts of his friends, his found family. But mostly, the Worf stuff feels like something the writer made up to fill time when he realized he didn't have enough of the Riker story for an entire episode. Adding to that impression is how the Worf story itself also feels hastily assembled. This subplot has its own subplot, with the business about the Enterprise computer needing a checkup and Geordi feeling some kind of way about it. I guess somebody thought the filler needed some filler. Weirdly, this is the first storyline established in the episode, even though it winds up being by far the least important. It seems like it's going to be important in that first scene, but it turns out to just be the thing the characters are worried about before the actually important stuff starts to happen. And this is another characteristic many Season 2 TNG episodes have in common. We see the characters deeply involved in random business that winds up having little or nothing to do with what the episode is about. The Worf subplot has some memorable moments. I love over-the-top silly Klingon stuff, and Worf staggering through the pain stick gauntlet while groaning lines like, "The bile of the vanquished flows over my hands," deserves a place of honor right alongside the Riker versus Riker space karate fight, but it mostly plays like an excuse to fill time and to give the other characters something to do this week. I'm not saying that makes it bad, but that's what it is. The Icarus Factor was written by David Assael and Robert McCullough from a story by Assael and directed by Robert Iskov. It's the only Star Trek credit for Assael and Iskov and the only Star Trek writing credit for McCullough, though he was also a producer for 10 episodes during this season of TNG. The script isn't the best writing the show ever had, but it's above average for this point in the run, and Iskov's direction is actually quite good given the material. He clearly understood that this was an episode of a nighttime soap, and he shot it that way. Iskov understood it better than Gene Roddenberry, which is apparently the main reason why he only ever directed this one episode of TNG. According to Iskov in later interviews, whenever he attempted to inject a bit more emotion into the father-son rift between Kyle and Will Riker, Roddenberry would step in with his "people in the 24th century wouldn't act that way" horseshit. Sometimes I think it's a miracle this show was ever any good at all. TNG was in a state of flux during its second season. I've said before, I think Season 2 on the whole is a lot better than its reputation suggests. It produced some truly excellent episodes and a few less than excellent but still interesting ones. A lot of what worked and what didn't about TNG in Season 2 comes from how the creators of the show were trying things out, searching for a voice and an identity. They eventually found what they were looking for in Season 3, but some of the experiments, like the Icarus Factor, which I'd put in the less than excellent but still interesting category, are worth checking out. It's not a top-tier episode by any means. I wouldn't even call it top-tier for Season 2. It's nowhere close to the level of actual classics like The Measure of a Man and Q Who, and while it belongs in the same category as an enjoyably goofy episode like The Royale, it's not quite on that level either. But at the same time, it's way better than The Child, The Outrageous Okana, Shades of Grey, and the entire first season, save for a handful of shows. It ain't bad. And, I mean, come on. Any episode that ends with two guys dressed like minor Power Rangers villains having a blindfolded space karate fight at least deserves a look. Those are my thoughts on the Icarus Factor. What do you think of this episode? Please share your thoughts with me in the comments. If you'd like to support this channel, and I sure wish you would, if you can afford it, you can do so by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Steve Shives, becoming a channel member by clicking the join button, or by making a one-time gift by clicking the thanks button, or via PayPal or Venmo. Links are in the description. Please join me next time for a review of another family drama-centered episode. We stick with TNG for one more week to review the episode that inspired this batch of reviews. from Season 4 of TNG, Family. See you next time for that one. Thanks for watching, and take care, everybody.